Our story begins in a hospital, where our main character, Shen Yi, awakens feeling disoriented. His vision blurs as he notices something strange. A mysterious, floating door, glowing ominously with a red aura. Confused, Shen Yi rubs his eyes and examines the door, wondering if someone is playing a prank. But as he approaches, he realizes the door is truly hovering in midair, with nothing behind it. Is this some kind of magic trick? He wonders. Gathering his courage, Shen Ye opens the door and steps inside, only to find himself falling into an abyss. The sensation leaves him bewildered. He quickly regains his footing and looks around. What he sees shocks him. A completely dark, otherworldly space. How can there be another space inside the door? He wonders, his heart racing. Hello? Is anyone there? He calls out, his voice echoing into the void. Suddenly, a scraping sound begins to grow louder, as if something is being dragged across the ground. Shen Ye freezes, unable to see through the oppressive darkness. The sound draws closer, and before he can react, a massive red skeleton emerges from the shadows, its terrifying form illuminated by the faint red glow of its bones. Shen Yi's survival instincts kick in. Without thinking, he turns and sprints back toward the door, the skeleton chasing him with heavy, thunderous steps. Shen Yi bursts out of the door and slams it shut, panting heavily. "I'm sorry for bothering you. Have a nice day," he shouts through the door. As he catches his breath, the ominous door suddenly vanishes into thin air. "What? Where did it go?" Shen Ye mutters, confused. Before he can process what happened, a voice echoes in his mind. "Congratulations. You have awakened the ability World Link. I've finally found you." Shen Ye jumps, looking around frantically. "Who's talking?" he demands. The voice, calm and authoritative, replies telepathically, "Do not panic. I am communicating with you from another world, using a limited form of interdimensional communication. If you don't want to die, follow my instructions carefully." Though still confused, Shen Ye listens as the voice directs him to check his bag for a strange item. Digging through, he pulls out a creepy-looking statue. "Is this it?" he asks hesitantly. "Yes," the voice confirms. "That's the cursed statue of the wicked Ghost King. Someone deliberately placed it near you to curse you, kill you, and steal your soul. But their plan failed, and now you have survived." Suddenly, Shenya's memories come flooding back. He realizes with horror that he is not the original owner of this body. The true Shenya, a middle schooler, had his soul destroyed by the statue's curse. Shenya's own soul, from another world, had seamlessly taken over the body when he died of overwork in his original world. The voice explains further, when the curse fails to kill, it grants unimaginable power. Power accumulated over millennia by stealing souls. You now possess this power. Summon the door again. As Shen Ye watches, the cursed statue in his hands crumbles into dust. Following the voice's instructions, he summons the red door, and this time a system window appears in front of him. Title acquired. Polite person. Gray. Damaged. Equipping this title grants the following bonus. When you're polite, people will have a slightly better impression of you. Shen Ye stares at the window in disbelief. "Is this some kind of passive skill?" he mutters. The voice, however, grows faint. "Be careful," it warns. "Whoever used that cursed statue on you will return once they realize you're still alive. They might already be on their way." Before disappearing, the voice adds, "I need you. This world you stumbled into is called the Nightmare Realm, the same world I am trapped in. Grow stronger, reach the depths of the Nightmare Realm, and set me free. Do this, and I will reward you handsomely, but until then, don't you dare die." The connection breaks, leaving Shen Ye alone. He clenches his fists and sighs. "I barely crossed into this world, and someone already wants me dead. But why?" Searching the memories of the original Shen Yi, he finds no evidence of enemies. "Let's equip this title first. I need any edge I can get." Determined, Shen Yi summons the door again. He hesitates briefly, worrying that the red skeleton might still be inside, but he steels himself. "If it's there, I'll just run. As long as I stay near the door, I'll be safe." He steps through the door cautiously and spots the same red skeleton waiting for him in the darkness. Panic threatens to set in, but he forces himself to think logically. What if I could talk to it instead? Communication is the cornerstone of humanity. A skeleton is technically a dead person, and a dead person is still human. Sort of. Armed with his polite person title and a glimmer of hope, Shen Ye takes a deep breath. "Excuse me, sir. May I have a word?" he says, his voice steady, but trembling slightly. The red skeleton turns toward him, its glowing eyes narrowing as it looms over him. Shen Ye, feeling the pressure of the situation, nervously activated his polite person title and greeted the red skeleton. "Hello there. My name is Shen Ye," he said, bowing slightly. The red skeleton tilted its head, seemingly confused. Sensing an opportunity, Shen Ye gave his sincerest apologies. "I'm terribly sorry for disturbing your meal earlier." Seeing the skeleton remain calm, Shen Ye thought, "Good. The title seems to be working." Encouraged, he continued, "Actually, I'd like to become your friend." But before Shen Ye could say more, the red skeleton lunged at him, intent on killing him. Shen Ye quickly jumped back through the door, shouting, "Do you really have to be so violent? I just wanted to chat." The skeleton, furious, smashed the door, but Shen Ye managed to slam it shut just in time and escaped back to his room. Catching his breath, he muttered, "That was close." Looking at where the door had disappeared, he realized something important. It looks like if the door gets destroyed, it just vanishes. I knew it. Gray titles are such trash. I wonder what new title I got this time. Suddenly, a red, bloody notification window appeared in front of him. Titles can only be earned once per day. You've already used today's opportunity. Try again tomorrow. Disappointed, Shen Ye realized he couldn't endlessly farm titles. But then, another thought struck him. If that skeleton keeps blocking the door, I won't be able to get better titles tomorrow either. The assassin could show up at any moment. I don't have time for this. With determination, he summoned the door again. I'll bet everything on my past life as a top-tier salesman. I will close this deal. Opening the door, he stepped through with a confident smile. "Excuse me, sorry to bother you, but I'm back." The red skeleton, enraged, smashed the door again, but Shen Ye simply summoned it once more and stepped back inside. He addressed the skeleton calmly. "It's no use. You can't eat me, and I can freely travel between our two worlds. We can only talk, and that's that." The skeleton roared in fury and smashed the door again, but Shen Ye didn't give up. Summoning the door once more, he asked, "Now, are you ready to hear my proposition?" After multiple failed attempts to kill Shen Ye, the red skeleton, frustrated and exhausted, retreated into the darkness of a tunnel. Shen Ye, seeing the skeleton leave, called out, "Don't go," he continued. "I noticed you're injured. When you were chomping on people earlier, new bone was growing from the break in your left arm. And it's not just your arm, is it? Your skull, ribs, spine, they're all damaged." The skeleton stopped and turned to look at him. Shen Ye quickly pulled out his phone and showed a picture of calcium tablets. "I can't let you eat me, but our world has tons of stuff that's great for your bones, like these calcium tablets, specifically designed to help with healing. And we've got other supplements that are way more nutritious than I am. If we become friends, I can help you get them." Smiling, Shen Ye added, "We have a saying where I come from. I'd take a bullet for my friend. Buying some calcium tablets is nothing compared to that. Though, in your case, I doubt bullets are much of an issue, right?" The red skeleton raised its right hand, summoning a glowing purple orb. Shen Ye, thinking he was about to be attacked, braced himself. "Still no good, huh? Guess I'll have to try something else." But instead of attacking, the skeleton materialized a piece of parchment in the air. Shen Ye stepped closer, realizing it was a contract. A notification popped up. "Progenitor of shadowed bones, devourer of corpses, defeated lord of the underworld, Mictlantecutli." Shen Ye blinked in disbelief. This monster's got some serious credentials. Wait, why are there ellipses after the name? The notification continued. "Defeated lord of the underworld, Mictlantecutli, Skull Legion 5th Division, Battlefield Acquisition Officer." Shen Ye stared at the title and thought, so he's just a low-ranking pencil pusher? The contract details appeared next. Contract terms equal exchange. Addendum. 7 millennia ago, humanity's culture, art, and technology caused the eternal bell of fate to chime 12 times. Even the gods took notice. "I hope you can help me regain my strength." The skeleton addressed Shen Ye directly. "I do not make contracts with beings other than gods. You should understand the value of this agreement. It is fair. Either party may terminate it at any time. Sign your name, and the contract will be binding. Shenye, intrigued, signed the contract. Another notification appeared. The human who overcame the curse of the fallen evil spirits. Gatekeeper of nightmares and reality, sole controller of the two realms. Realizing the gravity of what had just happened, Shenye muttered, "This is a really big deal." After the contract was sealed, Shenye found himself discharged from the hospital and returned home. His parents greeted him warmly. "You just got out of the hospital. Please let us know if you feel unwell," his father said. "Take it easy at home for a few days. Don't stress about anything," his mother added, handing him a tonic. "Drink this on an empty stomach. It'll do you good." His father also handed him the calcium tablets he had asked for. Shenye thanked them, overwhelmed by their kindness. "I never received such care in my past life as an orphan," he thought. "It's so nice to feel loved by family." Just as he was basking in this newfound warmth, there was a knock at the door. When he opened it, 2 police officers stood outside. "We're from the East Precinct. We'd like to ask you some questions about your case," one of them said. The older police officer looked at Shenye's parents and said solemnly, "Incidents like this happen countless times every year. They're completely unpredictable, and when they do, all you can do is accept your fate. Fortunately, Shenye, you've recovered. That's a blessing amidst the misfortune." Shenye, listening carefully, couldn't shake the feeling that the officers knew more than they were letting on. He pieced together the implications. The real Shenye. He was killed by a monster summoned by that cursed statue. A sad expression crossed his face as he spoke. "So, next time something like this happens, we're all just supposed to leave it to fate?" The older officer fell silent, unable to respond. But the younger officer standing behind him, his right hand clearly mechanical with a metallic sheen, stepped forward. "I know you're upset," he said, his voice steady, "but there's something you should know. The higher-ups have approved it. The hospital where this incident occurred will soon be abandoned. No one will be allowed to enter again. Rest assured, there won't be any more victims." Shenye's gaze shifted to the younger officer's uniform, noting the 3 stars on his badge. A sergeant, and he's still so young, he thought. "Thank you for telling me," Shenye said, his voice polite, but tinged with nervousness. "It's just, I'm worried someone's targeting me." The young sergeant gave him a reassuring nod. "Don't worry too much," he said. "You're just a middle schooler with a simple social circle. We haven't found any evidence of anyone holding a grudge against you." With that, the officers began to leave. "We have other duties to attend to," the sergeant said. "We won't bother you any longer." As the officers walked away, Shenye reflected on their conversation. The curse from the wicked Ghost King statue is incredibly powerful. Not even the police or the government can do anything about it. It's obvious. They're terrified and would rather stay far away from it. But something didn't add up. Why me? Why would someone use such a powerful curse against a normal middle schooler? Lost in thought, he was startled when the young sergeant returned. Handing Shenye a card, the sergeant said, "If anything feels off, call me directly." Shenye accepted the card and looked at the name, Sergeant Luo Feichuan. "Guess not everyone in the police force is useless," Shenye mused. "But can I trust him? Or rather, can he actually help me? If the police and the government can't do anything, what can one sergeant do?" His thoughts grew darker. Now that word has spread about me being alive. Whoever is after me won't let this slide. What if they target my family? Determined, Shenye clenched his fists. "I have to get stronger. As soon as possible." Shenye summoned the red dimension door again, this time armed with calcium tablets and a smile. Stepping through, he called out, "Big Skelly, I'm back." The red skeleton emerged from the darkness, looming over him. "I brought you the calcium tablets you wanted," Shenye said, holding them up. But the skeleton pointed at Shenye's pocket. Curious, Shenye pulled out the tonic his mother had given him. "You want this instead?" he asked. In response, the skeleton retrieved the contract they had made earlier. A notification appeared in front of Shenye. "The other party desires the tonic in your possession. As a battlefield acquisition officer, the giant skeleton has selected an item from its collection of war spoils. A relic from an enemy soldier, offering it in exchange for your tonic, low-tier nightmare crystal. A relic crafted by high elves, who were once enemies of the giant skeleton. This crystal can directly instill knowledge, skills, techniques, or intelligence into the user. In the realm of nightmares, all civilization and knowledge serve to enhance combat prowess. Shen Ye's eyes lit up as he took the crystal. A crystal that grants knowledge and skills? This sounds amazing. I'm in! Without hesitation, he snapped the crystal, activating its power. A red notification window appeared. You have learned. Moonlit Deer Walk. Moonlit Deer Walk, the primary movement technique used by elven soldiers designed to counter the undead. This technique allows the user to evade, dash, and sidestep. Shen Yi grinned. Never thought I'd trade a single tonic for an elven movement technique. At least now I have a way to defend myself. The red skeleton took the calcium tablets as well and retreated back into the shadows. Shen Yi folded his arms and muttered, "Hiding in the dark, huh? We signed a contract. What's with all the secrecy?" Shaking his head, he decided to focus on practicing the Moonlit Deer Walk technique. But as he was about to leave, a notification window appeared. Moonlit Deer Walk, first form, evasion. Required agility, points, 3. Assessing your physical attributes, agility points, 2. You need one more agility point. Shen Ye sighed. This really is like a video game. He asked the system, "How do I increase my agility?" Before he could get an answer, a voice from behind interrupted him. "You really are alive. How is that possible, I wonder?" Shen Ye spun around, his heart pounding. Outside his window stood a man dressed in black, a dagger glinting in his hand. The man smirked. "Let's see what you're really made of," he said, his voice dripping with malice. The assassin leaped through the window into Shen Yi's room, gripping a dagger with deadly intent. Without hesitation, he slashed at Shen Yi, but Shen Yi's reflexes kicked in just in time. He dodged the attack with a quick sidestep. The killer, clearly impressed by Shen Yi's reflexes, smirked. "Not bad, kid. Quick on your feet." Shen Yi took a deep breath, his heart racing. He couldn't believe someone had already been sent to kill him. Attempting to calm the situation, Shen Yi activated his polite person title and greeted the assassin. "Hello, sir. Is there something I can help you with?" The assassin didn't pause, lunging at Shen Ye again. "Yeah, you can die for me," he growled. Shen Ye was stunned to see his title had no effect. The system chimed in with an explanation. The polite person title is a gray, broken title, the lowest tier in the Nightmare Realm's ranking system. Skills, techniques, titles, and equipment are ranked from gray broken to purple 1 in a million. Higher ranks provide stronger effects. Realizing the polite person title was almost useless, Shen Ye gritted his teeth. Damn it! No wonder it didn't work! As the assassin relentlessly attacked, Shen Ye dodged frantically, barely keeping up. But the killer grew impatient, pulling a gun from his pocket and aiming it at Shen Ye. "Your fancy footwork won't save you from a bullet," he sneered. Seeing the gun, Shen Yi's heart sank. He knew he couldn't keep dodging forever. Suddenly, a notification popped up in front of him. Titles can be consumed to gain status points. The higher the title's rank, the more points you'll gain. Furious, Shen Ye shouted at the system, "These things are consumable? Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" Without wasting any time, Shen Ye ordered the system to consume his polite person title. A notification flashed. "You have gained 1 status point. Put it into agility, now," Shen Ye commanded. His agility increased from 2 to 3, crossing the threshold required to activate Moonlit Deer Walk. First form, evasion. As the assassin pulled the trigger, Shen Ye used Moonlit Deer Walk, vanishing from his original spot and reappearing behind the assassin. The killer was momentarily stunned, but Shen Ye didn't hesitate. He summoned the Nightmare World door, stepping through it quickly. The assassin, enraged, chased after Shen Ye and leaped through the door. "You can't get away from me!" he yelled. Inside, the assassin found himself in a dark, eerie tunnel. Confused, he muttered, "What the hell is this? A secret passage?" He cautiously moved forward, searching for Shen Ye. Meanwhile, Shen Ye, hiding behind the door, smirked. Stepping back through the portal into his own world, he shouted, "Later, Mr. Assassin!" The assassin, hearing Shen Ye's voice from behind, spun around and lunged at him. But before he could reach Shen Ye, the dimension door vanished. The assassin was now trapped in the Nightmare World, face to face with the terrifying red skeleton. The skeleton roared and opened its massive jaws, devouring the assassin in one swift bite. As it consumed the assassin, the damaged bones of the skeleton began to regenerate. Back in his room, Shen Ye let out a sigh of relief. That was way too close. There are probably more assassins coming. I need to get stronger, fast. As he contemplated his next move, a notification window appeared. Your sacrifice of a living creature has pleased the other party. Adhering to the principle of equal exchange, the other party offers items in return, and the contract is recognized. You have received Pale Shadow Crown and Silver War Medal. Shen Ye's eyes widened. 2 items? And they're both green quality. The system provided descriptions. Pale Shadow Crown. Green equipment. Excellent. An item imbued with high-level shadow magic from the Gloom Abyss. When worn, it disguises the user as a member of the elf race, crafted by the undead. Silver War Medal. A symbol of honor within the Nightmare Realm's elven forces. Awarded only to soldiers who have achieved great feats. Wearing this medal will teleport you to elven territory. Shen Ye grinned. This skeleton's a pragmatist. It wanted to eat me at first, but now it's showering me with goodies. Let's see how this Pale Shadow Crown works. Putting on the crown, Shen Ye's body transformed. His skin became flawless, his ears elongated, and his features turned elegant and refined. Holy cow, he exclaimed. It actually works. I'm an elf. This is awesome. Excited, he planned his next move. As soon as I get another title tomorrow, I'm heading straight for elf territory to loot everything. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. His excitement turned to dread. Who's there? He asked nervously. Don't tell me it's another assassin, a voice called out from the other side of the door. Shen Ye, are you okay? It's me, Chen Haoyu. Hearing the name, Shen Ye's thoughts stirred. Chen Haoyu? Memories flooded back. Chen Haoyu was Shen Ye's best friend. The very reason Shen Ye had gone to the hospital that day was to visit him. Taking a deep breath, Shen Ye stepped back and opened the door. As soon as the door swung open, Chen Haoyu rushed in, embracing him tightly. His voice cracked with emotion as tears streamed down his face. You scared me to death! I'm so sorry! This is all my fault! You were dragged into this mess because of me! Shen Ye patted his friend's back and reassured him. Don't worry about it. It wasn't your fault. I just had some bad luck. I'm perfectly fine now. At that moment, Shen Ye's mother entered the room. She smiled warmly at Chen Haoyu. Haoyu, it's nice to see you. Are you here to visit Xiaoye? Shen Ye turned to his mother, concerned. Why are you alone? Where's Dad? Her expression softened. Your father went to see your grandfather. He's trying to get more of those super tonics. Did you take the tonic I left for you? Shen Ye nodded. Yes, I did. Chen Haoyu's eyes widened in astonishment. Super tonic? That stuff is incredibly rare. Even the wealthy struggle to get their hands on it. Your family must have some impressive connections. Shen Ye's mother, visibly uneasy, replied. It took a lot of effort. Chen Haoyu, still processing the information, turned to Shen Ye. Your parents are doing so much for you. You've got to recover in time for the high school entrance exams. Shen Yi froze. High school entrance exams? A realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. The body he now inhabited belonged to a middle school student. He remembered the intense importance of these exams. Because of the curse, he had missed the first test while he was hospitalized. Chen Haoyu's voice softened with regret. With your perfect grades, you could have gotten into any top high school. This is all my fault. Before Shen Ye could respond, his mother interjected, Haoyu, don't blame yourself. Xiaoye may have missed the strength test, but if he performs well on the agility test, he can still get into a good school. Shen Ye's mind raced. This world's exams are unlike anything I've seen before. They're not just about academics. They measure physical stats like strength and agility. So that's why Moonlit Deer Walk has an agility requirement. But a darker thought clouded his mind. I'm being hunted. Going to school is like painting a target on my back. Maybe I should just give up on these exams. His mother noticed the worry etched on his face and embraced him tightly. If you don't want to take the exams, that's okay. We just want you to be safe and sound. Upon hearing his mother's heartfelt words, Shen Yi felt a surge of emotion. A smile spread across his face as he looked at her and said, Don't worry too much, Mom. You don't know how strong I am. He realized that if he told her he was giving up on the exams, she would agree without hesitation. But he couldn't do that. Gathering his resolve, he said firmly, I'm going to school tomorrow to join the review sessions." As he spoke, Shen Ye's memories began to flood back. His grandfather, and, in fact, his entire extended family, seemed to hold significant influence and power. However, his parents had a strained relationship with his grandfather and the rest of the family. They had never sought his help, choosing instead to live self-reliantly. Although their life wasn't luxurious, it was comfortable enough. There was no way they could have afforded the rare super tonic on their own. "They must have groveled and begged my grandfather for it," Shenya thought, his heart heavy. But their son, Shenya, is already dead. This realization only strengthened his resolve. "I can't let their efforts go to waste." He smiled warmly at his mother and said, "I'm starving. Could you make a late-night snack for me and my friend?" The next day at school, Shen Yi immersed himself in the unusual curriculum. Books on body mechanics, psychic energy, and strength training lay open before him. This world's education system is something else, he thought. Still, he was relieved to see the bustling campus. No assassin would dare strike in such a crowded place. If I can get into a prestigious high school, I'll have access to powerful teachers who can protect me. His thoughts were interrupted when a classmate approached him. "Shen Ye, Zhao Yibing is looking for you. She's waiting in the hallway." Shen Ye frowned. Zhao Yibing? A memory surfaced. She was a classmate who frequently nagged him about studying. Curiosity piqued. He headed to the hallway. "Why were you looking for me?" Shen Ye asked. Zhao Yibing's expression was cold. "I heard you came back to prepare for the exams. I did well on the first test and feel confident about the rest. I'm sure I'll get into the provincial elite high school. Congratulations," Shen Ye said politely. She hesitated before continuing. "I just wanted to say, don't look for me anymore." Shen Ye's brows furrowed. "We're from different worlds," Zhao Yibing continued. "Soon we'll have nothing in common. Let's not waste each other's time. But we can still be friends." The students in the hallway whispered excitedly. "Is Zhao Yibing dumping Shen Ye?" Shen Ye's frustration bubbled to the surface. "I missed one exam, and now she's trying to humiliate me?" Zhao Yibing pulled out her phone and showed him. "I've already deleted your contact information. I hope you live well," Shen Ye smirked. "Zhao Yibing, do you remember how you always came to find me in class? I never once sought you out. I never even wanted to be your friend in the first place. Now, with exams around the corner, please don't bother me." The crowd gasped, their whispers turning into a buzz of excitement. Shen Ye was at the top of his class, and she clung to him. Now that he's missed one exam, she's ditching him. That's harsh. One of Zhao Yibing's friends stepped forward shouting, "Bing Bing gave you so many gifts, and this is how you treat her? You're so ungrateful." Zhao Yibing's eyes welled up with tears. "Shen Ye, I thought we were friends." But Shen Ye remained unfazed. Tears and guilt-tripping. She's really trying hard. Too bad I'm not falling for it. He scratched his head nonchalantly. "Yeah, I accepted your gifts. But taking a gift isn't the same as accepting you." The crowd erupted in cheers. "Shen Ye turned the tables!" someone exclaimed. Shen Ye turned to leave, but paused to deliver one final blow. "If you truly cared about me, you wouldn't try to tie me down with gifts. I have the right to find someone better. If you want your gifts back, I'll pay you. But don't expect us to be friends." With that, he walked away, leaving Zhao Yibing stunned and the crowd buzzing with awe. Upon hearing Shen Ye's words, Zhao Yibing was stunned. Her friend, however, was furious and shouted, "You're such a jerk, Shen Ye." The crowd around them grew increasingly agitated. "He's the worst!" So messed up. Zhao Yibing is totally head over heels for him, and he treats her like this? Does he think he's so cool just because he gets good grades? How dare he embarrass her like that? Another voice chimed in, "He's a scumbag! Get back here! Don't play with her feelings like this!" Zhao Yibing tried to call out to Shen Ye, "It's not like that! We're not done talking!" But her friend stopped her, saying, "Let him go. He's not worth it." Despite the commotion, Zhao Yibing was more concerned about something else entirely. "Everyone thinks they're defending me, but I was about to dump him. Now it looks like I got dumped instead, and my reputation is completely ruined." Before Shen Ye could leave, a man with a gorilla-like face blocked his path. He was the typical side character who harbored a crush on Zhao Yibing. "Shen Ye, Bing Bing hasn't given you permission to leave," he said. Introducing himself, the man continued, "I'm Sun Ming, ranked number 3 in our class. You haven't been to school for several days, so you're behind on the news. I've gotten a lot stronger, and you're no longer the top student here. If you don't want broken bones, you'd better apologize to Bingbing right now." Shenya sighed, an idea forming in his mind. "You've got it all wrong," he said. "Zhao Yibing was the one who asked me to come here. I wasn't bothering her, but whatever. I'll apologize." Turning to Zhao Yibing, he gave her a dramatic apology, his voice trembling with fake sincerity. "Zhao Yibing, go ahead and keep pestering me if you want. Happy now? Then." Without waiting for a response, he ran off, leaving everyone, including Zhao Yibing, in shock. Zhao Yibing called after him, "I wasn't trying to force you. Don't listen to Sun Ming." But deep inside, she was furious. This was supposed to be my moment, to humiliate and dump Shen Ye in public. But Sun Ming ruined everything. Sun Ming, seeing Zhao Yibing's frustration, was equally enraged. "I came here to support her, and now it's all messed up," he yelled at Shen Ye. "You little punk! I'm going to teach you a lesson!" As Sun Ming prepared to attack, Shen Ye swiftly grabbed his hand and jumped into the air, leaving everyone, including Sun Ming, in disbelief. He landed behind Sun Ming using his moonlit deep walk technique, displaying incredible speed and agility. "Apologize? I already did," Shen Ye said. "What more do you want?" Before the situation escalated further, a teacher arrived and yelled, "What are you all doing here? The mock exams are about to start. Get to the field now." The crowd dispersed reluctantly. Disappointed, they couldn't see the fight. Sun Ming clenched his teeth and glared at Shen Ye. "This isn't over," he growled. Later, everyone gathered on the field for the mock exams. While waiting for his turn, Shen Ye's best friend, Chen Haoyu, approached him. "This test is going to take forever. Look at the line. It'll be ages before they get to us. There's a new comic shop behind the school. Want to check it out while we wait?" Shen Ye declined, remembering that he had forgotten to collect today's Nightmare World title the night before. "I think I'll pass," he said. "Can you save my spot? My stomach's killing me. I need to hit the restroom." Making an excuse, Shen Ye went to the restroom to enter the Nightmare World. However, someone followed him, a mysterious assassin wielding a weapon cloaked in a purple, ominous aura. The assassin entered the restroom, intent on ambushing Shen Ye, but to his surprise, Shen Ye had already disappeared. Confused, the assassin muttered, "Where'd he go? I saw him come in here." Inside the Nightmare World, Shen Ye used his pale shadow crown to transform into an elf. He called for his ally, the big red skeleton, but it was nowhere to be found. Instead, he noticed a pistol lying on the ground, the assassin's weapon. Picking it up, Shen Ye thought, "Now I've got something to defend myself with in the elf territory, though I've never used a gun before." Curious about Big Skelly's whereabouts, Shen Ye set his concerns aside. Realizing time was of the essence, he used the silver war medal to teleport to the elf village. As the magic circle beneath him activated, a mysterious voice spoke to him. "Is that you?" Shen Ye asked, startled. The voice replied, "I don't have much time. Take this." A black token, crackling with lightning, appeared before him. "What is this?" Shen Ye asked. But before he could get an answer, the teleportation circle completed, and he disappeared. Shen Ye materialized in a dense forest, disoriented but alert. Did the teleportation work? Is this the elves' territory? He glanced down at the dagger in his hand, a peculiar weapon given to him by the mysterious voice. Why would it give me this? He wondered, his thoughts racing. A sudden noise from behind snapped him to attention. Instinctively, he called out, "Who's there?" 3 figures emerged from the shadows. Elves, or so it seemed. "Fern!" they exclaimed in unison, their expressions a mix of relief and urgency. Shen Ye blinked in confusion. Who's Fern? He studied the trio closely. Upon closer inspection, they weren't true elves. Their features were almost human, but each wore the distinct pale shadow crown, identical to the one on his head. "You finally made it," one said, exasperation evident in his tone. "If you'd taken any longer, we would have had to abort the mission." Recovering quickly, Shen Ye feigned confidence. "Apologies for the delay. There were complications." "At least you're here now," another replied curtly. They quickly brought him up to speed, explaining how they had gained the trust of the elf tribe by posing as wounded soldiers from the front lines. Their objective was clear: assassinate the chief and seize the tribe's treasures. One of them eyed him and asked, "Are you ready?" Shen Ye tightened his grip on the pale shadow crown and forced a smirk. "Always ready. Let's get this done." As he adjusted the crown, the others tensed visibly. "Stop that!" one of them snapped. You can't take off the pale shadow crown. If your true identity as an undead is revealed, the entire mission will collapse. Relax, Shenye replied, masking his unease. I was just making it more comfortable. Internally, though, his mind was racing. These three, they're undead too. And that skeleton. He tricked me into taking his place as Fern. The leader of the trio motioned towards the path ahead. We move now. To the elf village. Shenye followed reluctantly, struggling to match their inhuman speed. These undead are insanely fast. I'm barely keeping up. When they reached the village, Shenye could barely conceal his exhaustion. We need the chief's permission to enter, one of the undead explained. Just show your badge. It's a formality. Panting, Shenye asked, if it's risk-free, what's the dangerous part? The assassination, of course, the undead replied, with a cold smile. We'll cover you from outside. You handle the kill. Shenye's heart sank. You want me to kill the chief? He asked, feigning bravado. Yes, one of them said sharply. Are you afraid? Shenye forced a grin, concealing his panic. Afraid? I've been itching for a fight. Inside, however, he was filled with dread. Refusing isn't an option. They'd kill me, but assassinating the chief of an elf tribe in their stronghold, this is a death sentence. As they approached the gates, the undead called out, Our companion has arrived. Grant him entry. The gatekeeper inspected Shenye's silver war medallion and nodded. Open the gates. A hero from the front lines has arrived. The village was alive with activity. Elves greeted him with admiration, their voices filled with gratitude. Even the elf maidens bowed respectfully, their beauty only amplifying Shenye's anxiety. This way, the gatekeeper said, leading Shenye to a grand hall. The chief is expecting you. The undead stepped back, their piercing gazes locking on Shenye. We'll wait here. Don't keep us waiting long. Shenye entered the hall, his heart pounding. Inside stood an elegant elf with an air of authority, gazing out the window. The chief turned, a serene smile on his face. Welcome, valiant soldier. Thank you for your service on the front lines. As Shenye took in the chief's composed demeanor, a system notification appeared in his vision. Ability Door activated. Titles can now be analyzed. Purple grids illuminated the air, revealing the chief's titles. Spirit of the Myriad Forests. Heir to the ancient tree throne, nature's mighty lord, Grand Master of arcane arts, guardian of the nightmare realm, one of the 5 world heads. Shenye froze in disbelief. These titles are beyond anything I've ever seen. Compared to the chief, his own broken, dysfunctional title felt laughable. What was I thinking? Those undead outside didn't dare challenge him, and they expect me to pull this off? Overwhelmed with fear, Shenye clenched his fists. Skeleton Fern, you've set me up for failure. I'll remember this betrayal. The village chief smiled warmly at Shenye. Thank you for your contribution. Please rest and recover here in our village. With a wave of his hand, the chief used teleportation magic to send Shenye directly to the banquet hall, where a grand celebration was underway in honor of the warriors returning from the front lines. The hall was filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of delicious food. Among the revelers were the 3 undead who had accompanied Shenye. One of them approached him and said, Now that you're here, enjoy yourself. It's still early, and we could use a bit of rest. Another leaned closer and asked in a low voice, Have you seen the target yet? She'll join the party soon. Wait for her to lower her guard, and then strike. We'll provide cover. Shenye's mind raced as he thought, Cover! They're planning to create chaos and use it as a chance to escape. If this continues, I'm as good as dead. I need to find a way to turn this around. As he mulled over his predicament, a soft voice called out behind him. Would you like to dance? Shenye turned to see a beautiful elf girl with radiant features and a kind smile. It's a great honor to dance with heroes from the front lines, she added, caught off guard, but seeing no reason to refuse. Shenye nodded. Of course, but I must warn you, I'm not much of a dancer. The elf giggled. Don't worry, I'll lead. She guided him to the center of the hall, and they began to dance. Despite his initial awkwardness, Shenye couldn't help but enjoy the moment. However, a bittersweet thought crossed his mind. What a pity! If not for this doomed mission, I might have truly enjoyed dancing with someone like her. Damn it! I need to find a way out of this. The elf girl noticed his distracted expression and asked, Why so silent? Several of your brothers seem just as troubled. Has the fighting on the front lines taken a toll on your spirit? Shenye quickly recovered. Not at all, he said with a polite smile. I was just worried about my poor dancing skills. I apologize if I've disappointed you. May I ask for your name? My name is Lanny, she replied with a warm smile. Lanny, Shenya said, an idea forming in his mind. To make up for my clumsy dancing, allow me to perform a magic trick for you. Intrigued, Lanny's eyes lit up. A magic trick? Please, show me. But let me warn you, if it's not good, I'll take back my bracelet. She playfully handed him her bracelet as a token of trust. Shen Ye grinned. No problem. Climbing onto a table, he clapped his hands to grab everyone's attention. Dear friends, gather around. I will now perform a magic trick, unlike anything you've ever seen, a transformation into a human. The crowd erupted in excitement and curiosity. Lanny shouted from the crowd, Really? Can you really do that? Other onlookers chimed in, I've never seen magic like this before. Go on, show us. The three undead, watching from the corner, began to grow nervous. What's he doing? One of them whispered. Does he really know how to transform into a human? Another asked. This might be his way of blending in with the elves, the third speculated. Ignoring their whispers, Shen Ye reached for the pale shadow crown on his head. Watch closely, everyone, he said. With a dramatic flourish, he removed the crown. His undead features vanished, revealing a youthful human appearance. The crowd gasped in astonishment. Look at his ears and eyebrows. He's really turned into a human boy, someone exclaimed. Lanny clapped in delight. Incredible! Can you turn back now? Shen Ye smiled. This transformation happens when I remove the crown. Then, pointing toward the three undead, he said, My brothers here can perform the same trick. If they remove their crowns, they'll turn back into spirits of the dead. The hall fell silent, and suspicion filled the air. All eyes turned toward the three undead. Weapons were drawn, and a tense voice shouted, Stay alert! They're undead infiltrators. Shenya took a step back, quickly summoning the door behind him. Don't worry, everyone, he said, with a calm smile. I'll be back as soon as my brothers finish their transformation. The crowd froze in amazement as the glowing door materialized out of thin air. When did that door appear? Someone asked. Is this another trick? Another murmured. Ignoring the murmurs, Shen Ye gave a final glance at Lanny. Goodbye, Miss Lanny, he said with a smile, before stepping through the door. The moment he entered, the door vanished into thin air, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. What kind of magic is this? One elf asked, bewildered. Lanny stared at the spot where the door had been, her expression filled with confusion and a trace of sadness. What just happened? Before the crowd could process what had occurred, someone shouted, Capture these three undead first. Another elf added, Be careful, they might have more tricks up their sleeves. Chaos erupted as the village chief appeared, casting vine magic to restrain the three undead. I was waiting for this moment, he said coldly. You thought you could infiltrate my village. How ironic that a human infiltrated your group and exposed your plan. One of the undead stammered, There's been a misunderstanding. We have badges, the chief interrupted, by removing their crowns. The moment the crowns were gone, their undead forms were revealed in full. Holding the pale shadow crown, the chief examined it closely. This artifact carries advanced shadow magic from the dark abyss. It's far more potent than I expected. It seems the undead have been sending spies into every village. With this, we can uncover their weaknesses and counter them. He glanced toward the direction Shen Ye had vanished and muttered, I owe that human a great debt. Meanwhile, Lanny stared at the same spot, a mixture of sadness and confusion on her face. As for Shen Ye, he had escaped through the portal created by his door ability, leaving behind a bewildered crowd. After successfully escaping the elf village, Shen Ye breathed a sigh of relief. The door adapts to local customs and transforms to suit the environment. Who would have thought? He mused. That situation was far too dangerous. I need to remember this lesson for the future. As he caught his breath, a loud voice interrupted his thoughts. You stinky skeleton! While I was risking my life in elf territory, you were enjoying a feast here? Shen Ye shouted, glaring at the large skeleton before him. The big skeleton turned, clearly surprised. You're still alive? Shen Ye narrowed his eyes. You can speak human language? You gave me the crown of pale shadow, knowing it would send me to my death, didn't you? The skeleton, unfazed, replied curiously. How did you survive? Tell me the details. Shen Ye crossed his arms, still fuming. I'm not telling you anything. You nearly got me killed. In response, the skeleton offered Shen Yi something intriguing. A notification appeared before him. The other party is sincere. As part of an equivalent exchange, he has prepared a powerful necromancy spell for you. Shenya scoffed. Do you think you can buy me off with a trinket? Don't insult my character. Ignoring the outburst, the big skeleton summoned a glowing purple crystal ball, brimming with an ominous aura. Listen carefully, he said. The reason I gave you the crown of pale shadow is because you're human. The elves and humans are allies. If you went, you stood a chance of survival. If I had gone, it would have been certain death for me. But to apologize, I'll go beyond equivalent exchange. I'm offering you this, an inherited nightmare crystal. Shenya's curiosity was piqued as the skeleton continued. This crystal contains 3 top-level evolutionary undead talents. You can choose one to integrate into your soul and gain its abilities. The skeleton explained further. These talents don't consume energy and are foundational to the undead race. This crystal is why I've managed to survive, despite being injured. It's far too valuable for others to risk damaging it, but I'll give it to you. No one will suspect I handed it over. After some thought, Shenya calmed down and sighed. I am a principled person. Since you're so sincere, I'll forgive you this time, but remember, there won't be a next time. As Shenya took the crystal, a dead, regal skeleton wielding a sword appeared before him, radiating an intimidating aura. The figure spoke, offering 3 talents for Shenya to choose from. Dark Whisper, primary, evolvable. With a corpse as proof, summon the dead to reveal their knowledge and grant them peace. Death is the ultimate teacher. 2. Holy Relic Body, primary, evolvable. Any power that would kill you triggers a transformation into a holy body, granting immunity to death for 5 seconds. Can be used once per day. 3. Resurrection of the Dead, primary, evolvable. Create a soul fire to merge with a dead undead's body, reviving them. A powerful and rare resurrection spell. After analyzing his options, Shenya realized the resurrection of the dead is useless to me now. The Holy Relic Body offers temporary invincibility, but is limited to 5 seconds. Dark Whisper may seem weak in combat, but it's exactly what I need to uncover who's plotting against me. Resolute, Shenya chose Dark Whisper. Grasping the green crystal, he shattered it, releasing an eerie green energy that flowed into his body. He immediately sensed faint whispers of the dead around him. The big skeleton looked astonished. You actually chose Dark Whisper? Interesting. Most monarchs would have chosen the third option, and few even considered the second. No one has ever picked the first. Shenya smirked. What's wrong with it? It's just surprising, the skeleton admitted. Dark Whisper doesn't grant immediate combat effectiveness. It's more strategic. But perhaps that's exactly why you'll succeed. The skeleton pressed him for details about the elf village. Relenting, Shenya explained everything. After listening intently, the skeleton said, the original target should have been a female elf priestess. But the man you described is their strongest high priest, a formidable force. Shenya thought back to the priest's titles. Spirit of 10,000 forests, heir to the ancient tree throne, Grand Master of Arcane. No wonder he was so powerful. The skeleton muttered, those 3 undead knights were captured. They can no longer monitor or threaten you. This is your chance. Without further explanation, the skeleton turned and headed deeper into the nightmare world. Where are you going? Shenya called out. When he received no reply, he shrugged. Whatever. I have enough problems to deal with. Summoning the door, Shenya returned to his room. As he entered, a system notification appeared. You've obtained a new evaluation entry. Our people. Our people, green, excellent. Saying, hey, we're one of us. We'll make the target perceive you as an ally for 10 seconds. Afterward, they will forget what happened. Can be used once daily. Does not work on targets with attributes more than double yours. Shenya grinned. This could be useful. Another notification appeared. You've obtained the Nature's Blessing bracelet. Green, excellent. Wearing this accessory will slowly improve your mental strength. Shenya looked at the bracelet. Lanny gave this to me. I never imagined it would be a green quality item. Not bad. With a satisfied smile, he thought, a short sword, a green entry, a green bracelet, and a pistol. Not bad for a single trip. I need to stash these away before someone tries to take them. The body skills test began, and next up was Chen Haoyu, Shenya's close friend. As the teacher initiated the test, Chen Haoyu dashed through the course, skillfully dodging obstacles. From the crowd, Shenya cheered, "Stay calm! You've got this!" Chen Haoyu glanced at Shen and grinned. "These are just small matters, bro. I can handle it." However, his overconfidence led to a momentary lapse in focus, causing him to fail a critical part of the test. Laughter erupted from the crowd, with some mocking him. What an idiot! He deserves it for being so arrogant! Despite the mistake, Chen Haoyu managed to score 71 points, but the teacher reprimanded him. You should be thankful this isn't the official high school entrance exam. Next, the teacher called out, Shen Ye, your turn. Shen stepped forward and positioned himself at the starting line. As the test began, he sprinted with remarkable speed, effortlessly dodging all the ejected paint and completing the course with precision. The crowd was stunned. Did you see that? He's so fast, the paint couldn't even touch him. One person exclaimed, Look at how relaxed his movements are. It's like he's skating. Another added, How has he become so agile since leaving the hospital? Shen Ye smiled to himself. With experience and a little help from elf steps, this test is nothing. Nearby, a man standing by a tree observed Shen's movements. This kid's skills are interesting, he commented. The school principal, standing beside the man, nodded. He's our top student. Unfortunately, he missed the first exam. I thought it was a pity, so I asked you to evaluate him personally. The man, Manager Chien, studied Shen carefully. He's quite good at physical skills. If he can achieve full marks in mental strength, I might consider giving him an opportunity. The principal's eyes widened in surprise. Full marks for mental strength? That's an incredibly high standard. I remember Shen Ye's mental strength being very average. Manager Chien replied calmly, Then let's wait and see. A high score won't be enough. He must achieve a perfect score. As the agility test concluded, Shen Yi's results were announced. Full marks. The teacher conducting the test grew emotional. If only you hadn't missed the earlier exams. What a loss! Shen Ye thanked the teacher. Don't worry. I haven't given up on the high school exams yet. The teacher dismissed the students for lunch, announcing, Those who need to eat, go now. The remaining tests will continue this afternoon. Chen Haoyu approached Shen with a wide grin. Congratulations on the perfect score. Let's celebrate with some stir-fry. Shen smiled. Go wash up first. I'll head back to the classroom to study for a bit. Wait for me, I'll be quick! Chen Haoyu called as he hurried off. Back in the classroom, Shen Ye sat down to study, but was taken aback by the textbooks. What are these? Mathematics, physics, and chemistry are familiar enough, but Chinese language and scientific knowledge. Even the history and literature in this world are completely different from my original world. His mind swirled with fragmented memories. Suddenly, Sun Ming barged in and kicked Shen's desk. I told you, Shen Ye, this isn't over, he snarled. Shen narrowed his eyes. Did Zhao Yibing send you? Sun Ming smirked. That little brat doesn't care about you anymore. But while you were gone, my strength surpassed yours. Let's see if your agility can match my power. Let's find out who the real #1 in the grade is. Shen sighed. Why fight? We're all part of the same family. Activating his our own people skill, Shen Ye influenced everyone in the room. Immediately, their hostility dissolved. Zhao Yibing begged us to help her, but we don't want to hurt our own brother, one said. Yeah, we're family. Let's just drop this. Another added. Shen Ye sighed in relief. Fortunately, it's just a student fight, nothing serious. However, as the skill's effects wore off after 10 seconds, their aggression returned. Enough of this. Let's finish him off. Disappointed with the skill's limited duration, Shen Ye thought, this title is practically useless. He instructed the system, devour this title. A notification appeared. Our own people devoured successfully. You have gained 3 attribute points. The system prompted. You can also reclaim 1 attribute point previously added to agility. Would you like to redistribute it? Shen Ye was stunned. I can reassign used attribute points? Could I instantly switch from an agile assassin to a powerful warrior? When the system didn't respond, he decided, add all 4 points to strength. His strength attribute surged from 1.2 to 5.2. As the enhancement completed, Sun Ming's lackeys grabbed Shen from behind. You're not escaping this time. Let's fight Sun Ming openly. Sun Ming launched a powerful punch, aimed at breaking Shen's ribs, but when his fist connected, it met Shen's reinforced body. A sickening crunch echoed as Sun Ming's fingers shattered. He cried out in agony, clutching his broken hand. He quickly and easily freed himself from the red-haired boy's grip, then punched him in the face, leaving him unconscious. The other men in Sun Ming's group were stunned. They couldn't believe how easily he had overpowered Ma Bian. Yet, for reference, the average untrained adult typically has a base strength and agility stat of 1. Strength, as a base stat isn't just about raw muscle. It also includes the resilience of bones and muscles, the durability of internal organs, the flexibility of meridians, the explosive power of flesh and blood, and even the rate at which cells decay, essentially one's life force. All these factors combine to form an individual's strength stat. Shen Ye walked up to Sun Ming and said that just because he skipped one exam, they thought they could surpass him. With high school entrance exams around the corner, they were trying to gang up on him and ruin his life, all over some petty jealousy. Sun Ming became furious and shouted in anger. In response, Shen grabbed Sun Ming by the collar and lifted him into the air. He told Sun Ming that if it had been any other student, or even the old version of himself, he would have ended up putting them in the hospital. Sun Ming cried out in pain, apologized, and begged Shen for forgiveness, but Shen couldn't let it go. After all, they had humiliated him, beaten him up, and tried to destroy his future. Shen asked, "After all this, do you really think I'm just going to forgive you so easily?" He then swung Sun Ming around and threw him against a nearby wall. Sun Ming cried so loudly that the entire school could hear him. A teacher who had been overseeing an exam rushed into the classroom and demanded to know what was happening. What he saw left him speechless. Several students were lying on the ground, covered in blood, and Shen Ye himself was also on the ground, looking up at the teacher with tears in his eyes. Shen claimed that Sun Ming had been bullying him. The teacher found it hard to believe that Shen could have beaten them all so badly, and yet was now insisting they were the bullies. Meanwhile, Zhao Yibing, watching from the crowd, looked worried. She was the one who had planned this entire setup, but everything had gone wrong. She couldn't believe that even combined, these guys were no match for Shen Ye. How is he so strong? She thought. It doesn't matter. It's over now. She quickly deleted all her chat messages with Sun Ming to avoid being implicated. Zhao Yibing's friend asked her if she regretted it. Somewhere in her heart, Zhao Yibing did feel regret. She couldn't help thinking about the past. If only she had encouraged Shen back then at the stairwell. If only she had told him to keep trying and promised to stay in touch after they got into high school. Would things have turned out differently? But now she knew there was no going back. After this huge scene, Shen injuring 7 or 8 students, his qualification for the high school exams would likely be revoked. Zhao Yibing felt that her goal had been achieved. Shen Ye's life was ruined, and her own future was wide open. She told her friend, "I just hate myself for not realizing sooner that he was a loser." As Sun Ming was being taken to the hospital, he kept staring at Zhao Yibing. Bingbing. She wondered if he wanted to drag her into this situation. Panicking, she silently begged him to stop looking at her like that. Sun Ming opened his mouth to say something, and Bingbing grew even more frightened, so much so that she wished he would just die. Sun Ming called out Bingbing's name for everyone to hear. Upon hearing this, other students began glancing suspiciously at her, wondering if she was involved. Bingbing immediately burst into tears so no one would suspect her. She ran from the scene, still crying, and called the police, telling them the entire story as she saw it. Meanwhile, Shen realized that Zhao Yibing was distancing herself from him and throwing him under the bus all at once. The teacher grew worried. More students were calling the police, and the situation was spiraling out of control. He ordered everyone back to their classes and told Shen to come to his office. At the same time, the principal, who was with Mr. Chien, requested that he sign off on a few of the school's students, presumably those with especially high potential. Mr. Chien told the principal that he wanted to help, but the students involved did not meet his group's minimum standards. There was nothing he could do. Suddenly, a staff member ran over to the principal and reported that Shen Ye and Sun Ming had gotten into a fight, and that the police were already on the scene. The principal initially dismissed it, saying he was too busy to be bothered by student fights. However, the staff member mentioned a video of the fight recorded by Shen Ye, which finally caught the principal's attention. He and Mr. Chien watched the footage and were taken aback by what they saw. Meanwhile, Shen Ye showed the same video to the police to prove his innocence. After watching it, one of the officers asked Shen if he had planned on recording everything from the start. Shen nodded, explaining that he was afraid they might beat him to death if he didn't have evidence. Despite the video, the police still needed him to come to the station because the final outcome depended on the victim's injury assessments. The teacher tried to convince the officers not to take Shen away, explaining that he had already missed one exam due to an anomaly and might miss another if detained. "We have video evidence," the teacher insisted. "What else is there to investigate?" The police assured him that it was only for questioning and would only take a few days, provided the injuries were not severe. As all this was happening, Shen began meditating. He wanted to take advantage of the situation and keep reassigning his stat points, so his body could quickly adapt to the ongoing changes. Suddenly, the principal and Mr. Chien entered the room. They looked at Shen and told him that without the phone recording, he would likely have been expelled, given how severe the injuries were. Mr. Chien agreed, adding that Shen was physically far beyond the others. Fighting them was almost pointless. Approaching Shen, Mr. Chien mentioned that he had seen the video, or at least half of it, and noticed that Shen was clearly holding back. Shen nodded and admitted he was afraid of killing someone. Mr. Chien handed Shen his contact information, saying that he had seen Shen achieve a perfect score on the agility simulation test earlier. That achievement alone made Shen worthy of a recommendation. Looking at the card, Shen realized that Mr. Chien was from a major martial arts organization, one that held vast knowledge, an extensive library of copyrighted techniques, and enough resources to take an ordinary person and lead them to greatness. Shen also noticed that no matter how he distributed his stats, he couldn't even land a single hit on Mr. Chien. The man was incredibly strong. With someone like him as an ally, Shen wouldn't have to worry about assassins anymore. Curious about Shen's abilities, Mr. Chien asked him about the cyber-anic system estimate of his strength being at least 4.5. After reviewing the fight video, Mr. Chien felt Shen didn't look like someone with only 4.5 strength. "What's your exact number?" he asked. Unfamiliar with how strength stats worked in this world, Shen simply answered that his strength was 5. The principal and the teacher in the red t-shirt were shocked, and Mr. Chien seemed impressed. Shen, on the other hand, was confused, wondering if a strength stat of 5 was really such a big deal. Mr. Chien explained that for a middle school student, even a 4.5 was enough to attract attention, but 5 was on a whole different level. At strength 5, Shen could operate certain combat mechs, or wield some of the standard-issue ancient weapons that were normally off-limits to ordinary people. Plus, that perfect agility score made him even more remarkable. Mr. Chien said this was more than enough reason to use one of his recommendation slots. Finally, Mr. Chien invited Shen to join his group and promised to arrange a formal retest to confirm Shen's strength. Shen was surprised to hear that he could retest. Mr. Chien explained that normally this wouldn't be possible, but their group had the authority to request special re-examinations from the Education Bureau to ensure they didn't overlook talents like him. Shen agreed without hesitation. He didn't want to miss this opportunity. After Shen gave his consent, Mr. Chien said someone would be in touch to make the arrangements. As for the recent brawl, Mr. Chien assured him not to worry. The retest would be scheduled according to Shen's availability. However, before leaving, Mr. Chien asked about Shen's psychic power stat, explaining that he was just curious. Shen's strength and agility were already off the charts, so knowing his psychic power wouldn't affect the overall assessment. Shen thought to himself that he couldn't be amazing at everything, so he decided 3 points in psychic power should suffice. He told Mr. Chien that his psychic power was 3. Upon hearing this, the principal, the teacher, and the police officer were all taken aback. They had assumed Shen's psychic power was probably average. Not that high. Intrigued, Mr. Chien asked Shen for a demonstration, suggesting he try moving a chair with his mind. Shen then allocated his points to raise his psychic power to 3, and easily lifted the chair into the air. Seeing this display, the police officer instructed his men to leave. When they asked if they were really leaving already, the captain replied, "That kid, Shen Ye, has a strength of 5. A perfect agility score, which implies at least 4 in agility. And now we know his psychic power is 3. Don't you understand what that means? He's destined for greatness. His level of talent is way beyond our scope. Let's go." Mr. Chien was overjoyed. He never thought he would see the day when he discovered such a talented individual. He was so excited that he even started singing a song in front of everyone. The principal and the teacher praised him, while Shen felt a little awkward watching the display. Mr. Chien then pulled Shen aside for a private conversation, asking him about his goals or dreams in life. Shen told him that, at the very least, he wants to become strong enough so that no one can push him around anymore, that he wants to protect himself and his family. Mr. Chien smiled and told Shen that from this day forward, he would be taking his first step toward that dream. He then asked Shen to attack him with full force. Surprised, Shen began thinking sarcastic thoughts about Mr. Chien, but Mr. Chien clarified that he wanted Shen to attack him physically, not verbally. Shen reallocated all his points to strength and prepared to unleash a powerful punch. However, just as he was about to strike, he found himself unable to move. It was Mr. Qian's technique, a method to immobilize attackers. He explained that if Shen learned this skill, he would be able to protect himself. Without hesitation, Shen agreed to learn it. Mr. Qian then retrieved a gun and told Shen to watch closely. He pointed the gun at his own head and pulled the trigger. What Shen saw next left him speechless. Mr. Qian stopped the bullet with some kind of illusionary barrier. Mr. Qian explained that this was another secret art from their organization, capable of blocking all sorts of projectiles, even sniper fire. Shen knew there was no such thing as an unbreakable defense in the martial world, only attacks too fast to be countered. Mr. Qian laughed at his remark, saying Shen was a natural. Formally, Mr. Qian invited Shen to join their Hidden Dragon project. Curious, Shen asked what it was. Mr. Qian explained that it was the organization's program for cultivating rising stars. Through it, they would recommend promising students to the 3 best high schools in the world. However, before that could happen, those students would have to pass a rigorous entrance exam, one designed by those 3 elite schools themselves. Ordinary people never even got a chance to take such an exam, as it was typically monopolized by the children of noble families. This was the first time Shen had ever heard about these so-called noble families, and he had no idea what sort of families they were. Mr. Qian explained to Shen that noble families are those who possess ancient knowledge, artifacts, and bloodline pacts passed down from divine beings in ancient times. These families have more martial arts legacies than even his organization does. They also control vast tracts of land, large populations, and immense wealth. Essentially, these noble families reign supreme, separated from ordinary people by an insurmountable chasm. Hearing this, Shen wondered if his grandfather's family might be one of these noble families. Mr. Qian went on to say that the Hidden Dragon Project is designed to find talented individuals like Shen, people hidden among common folk, and help them gain entry into the most prestigious academies. Even if they fail the entrance exams, the organization guarantees them a spot in a top-tier high school. And if they succeed in getting into any of the 3 elite schools, the organization will fully support them, providing resources and guidance toward a future career aligned with their talents. Once these students reach their peak, they return to the organization to work there, naturally with excellent compensation. He told Shen to think carefully before making a decision, emphasizing that such opportunities are rare. However, Shen, who lived in a world where strength reigns supreme, felt he had little choice. Without further hesitation, he accepted Mr. Qian's invitation. Shen recalled that his family had once been noble, but his father was banished by Shen's grandfather for reasons unknown. As a result, Shen's family now lived as ordinary citizens. Anytime they encountered an anomaly, the police were unlikely to help them. His parents had to beg and borrow just to afford a single tonic, whereas for his grandfather's noble family, such a thing would be insignificant. Reflecting on how he'd injured someone, yet wouldn't face consequences, because his growing power placed him above the usual rules, Shen understood why all his teachers kept emphasizing that humanity survives by relying on the strong. That's how civilization endures. Mr. Qian handed Shen a document on a tablet, asking him to sign and provide his fingerprint. He noted that Shen could think it over, as other organizations might also contact him soon. However, Shen signed immediately, grateful that Mr. Qian's group had been the first to approach him and help him out of a difficult spot. Mr. Qian smiled and nodded, but reminded Shen that, since he was still a minor, they would also need his guardian's signature. Shen told Mr. Qian his parents should be home. Not wanting another organization to reach them first, Mr. Qian hurried off to Shen's house, promising to return quickly. Shen was amazed when Mr. Qian vanished in the blink of an eye. He truly was powerful. The principal and teacher approached Shen to ask how things went. Shen explained that he had already signed, and that Mr. Qian was on his way to speak with his parents about the contract. Overjoyed, the principal and teacher were certain their school would soon become the talk of the city. Just then, Shen received a call from an unknown number. It was Lu Feichuan, a 3-star surgeon who had made inquiries about Shen when he was discharged from the hospital. Lu Feichuan told Shen that he had uncovered some information regarding his situation and asked him to come to the police station. A moment later, Shen arrived at the police station. Sergeant Luo asked him to take a seat, but ever since Shen stepped inside, he had a strange feeling, like something was off. Sergeant Luo then showed Shen a photo of a man standing on the rooftop of the hospital building where Shen had been admitted. This photo was taken accidentally, Sergeant Luo explained. Someone handed it over to us because of the recent rumors surrounding the hospital. It's from the day of your incident. It shows a suspicious man on the rooftop across from the hospital. He asked Shen if he recognized the individual, but Shen, after examining the photo carefully, admitted he had never seen the man before. According to the forensic experts, Sergeant Luo continued, they believed this person had been trying to activate something. He asked Shen if he had been carrying anything unusual on him that day. Shen was taken aback, suspecting this man was likely the one who activated the wicked Ghost King's cursed statue. Clearly, Sergeant Luo hadn't caught him yet, and since the statue had already turned to dust, the trail had gone cold. Shen also knew he couldn't mention the statue. Anyone who possessed it died, and he was the only survivor. Telling the authorities about it would only invite trouble. So he insisted there had been nothing out of the ordinary that day. Sergeant Luo looked at Shen suspiciously. Any feelings of choking, losing control, blacking out? Anything like that? Shen sensed Sergeant Luo knew more than he was letting on. Moreover, Shen felt uneasy in this office, as if someone was lurking, waiting for a signal, ready to make a move. Trying to divert Sergeant Luo, Shen mentioned that his backpack had been open, even though he was sure he had zipped it before leaving school. Surprised, Sergeant Luo asked if Shen had checked the bag and found anything unusual or unidentified. Shen replied that he hadn't. He just zipped it back up without looking inside. Growing more anxious, Shen noticed Sergeant Luo making a subtle hand motion, as if signaling someone. Shen quickly reallocated all his stat points into agility, preparing to bail if necessary. He knew he might not outrun Sergeant Luo, whose stats were likely far higher, but there was no time to hesitate. He positioned himself so he could stomp through the floor if things went wrong. Suddenly, Sergeant Luo received a phone call. Startled, Shen nearly opened the makeshift escape hatch he was planning. But seeing the interruption as an opportunity to slip out, he stood and suggested he should step outside, while the sergeant took the call. "Don't worry," Sergeant Luo said. "This won't take long." He answered the phone and asked who was calling. Immediately, a furious voice on the other end shouted at Sergeant Luo, threatening to kill him. As the voice spoke, a surge of red energy materialized right in front of Sergeant Luo. Shen froze in fear. Was this an assassin? Then he realized the attack was aimed at Sergeant Luo, not him. Was this one of the techniques Director Chen had mentioned? Sergeant Luo quickly identified the threat and leaped out the window to deal with the intruder. The police station's security system sounded an alert, warning all non-combat personnel to find a safe place and hide. Shen, already on edge, looked outside the window. To his shock and confusion, it felt as though the city had vanished. Now, he was surrounded by something resembling a graveyard by the ocean. He couldn't believe how drastically the scenery had changed in just a few moments.